Hello, sports ballers, and welcome to your one-stop shop for all things Tennessee pro sports. I am Dylan Simmons, joined by Evan Snyder, and for his first ever season, Connor Smith. And welcome to Season 6 of Sportsballin. Gentlemen, it's great to have you.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We got some new faces like Connor, and familiar faces well around the studio, and also new faces around the studio. I'm excited to get after it here for Season 6.
Yeah, we got two vets over here. I'm the baby, but I'm really excited to go talk some sports with my dogs, as Pat McAfee would say.
I love it.
Yo.
Let's get right into it. You guys are ready to go, so we will start with the greatest motorsport in America. You heard me. It was back at Kansas Speedway this past weekend for the Hollywood Casino 400. There were many playoff implications in this NASCAR race, but in the end, non-playoff Ross Chastain took the checkered flag. With 2 races left in the round of 12, significant names like Tyler Reddick and Daniel Suarez are on the outside of the cutoff. Evan, as a NASCAR aficionado yourself, who is in the most danger going into Talladega?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's some of the guys you mentioned, like Tyler Reddick. You even look at Alex Bowman's kind of a little bit in the question. And sure, he is above the bubble at the moment, but some of these guys that are kind of teetering on that bubble line. And you also kind of look at guys, even Denny Hamlin's possibility as well. And with these next 2 races coming up, you got Talladega and you got the Roval at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. 2 very unpredictable races where you could have a situation like you saw with Ross Chastain, a non-playoff driver coming in and winning a race. And if you are a guy on the bubble, that is not what you want to see. Because obviously, for some of these guys like Tyler Reddick, maybe even Alex Bowman, I want to say maybe Kyle Larson, but he does have a win already at Bristol. But some of these other guys, you need a win in order to get into this round of 8. And seeing a guy like Ross Chastain and then going into Talladega this weekend, there's a big question mark where anybody can win it. I mean, we saw Harrison Burton win at Daytona at a super speedway, which never thought that was going to happen, but big ups to Harrison Burton, and it was really cool to see his father commentate that win. But I mean, good win for Ross Chastain, second of the year for Trackhouse Racing, which is huge, and of course, Daniel Suarez, who's fighting for a playoff spot also.
Yeah, as you said, it's pretty much wide open. You can point to 5 to 10 guys and just say this guy can win it, this guy can win it. But bottom line, it's like I said, wide open. It's really going to depend on who gets in the right mental state and goes and just has their best day on the track.
Yeah, I think that this one comes down to really the time of the season and the implications, like you mentioned, coming up in the next few races. Ross Chastain getting his first win of the season. How about that? I love it for the Watermelon Man. It's almost past time. I mean, he has been knocking on the door all year long. Great to see him finally take that checkered flag. But this race was crazy from the start. There was an incident on lap number 1, and it just kind of escalated from there. Kyle Larson with another issue on track. I know he's pretty safe in points right now, Evan, but he's been having a lot of issues with getting into the wall, having car troubles, especially here in the chase.
Yeah, we saw, I think it was about 40 or so, 50 or so, where he had a right rear tire go down, hit the wall, and that kind of destroyed his race for the rest of the evening. Finished, I believe, 25th.
Yes.
And Daniel Suarez finished above him, who's a guy that's talking about who's on the opposite side of that bubble, who's trying to make it into a playoff spot, which is another guy who probably will be out by the round of 8. No offense to Daniel Suarez, but it's just tough for Kyle Larson because, I mean, coming into the playoffs, he was the number 1 seed. He took that away from Tyler Reddick towards the end of the season, but Tyler Reddick is, your regular season champion. And it's kind of tough for Larson because, sure, you are sitting nice. I believe he's sitting about 4th in points at the moment. But, again, uncertainty going into Daytona and also into the Roval. But, I mean, I think if you're Kyle Larson, you're sitting pretty. If you're Denny Hamlin, you're sitting pretty. And a bunch of the other guys like Christopher Bell and all these other guys. But like we see on our screen, Tyler Reddick -4, Daniel Suarez, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric. Which Cindric, a guy I'm not surprised to see at the bottom in that 12th spot. He's been kind of shaky as well. And as well, you just look at the Ford cars. They haven't been doing too hot, but they finally figured something on the 1.5-mile tracks. I mean, Ryan Blaney was absolutely lights out in this race. Same with Joey Logano, who was fighting for a top 5 position pretty much the entire time. So we just have to see when it comes down to Talladega, which the Fords also, too, are very, very strong at these super speedways.
Talladega is going to be complete chaos. I think it's sometimes easier to predict who's going to flip than who's going to win, but it's going to be a heck of a race for sure. But, guys, moving on, the WNBA has given us some incredible playoff games so far in 2024, and the semifinal round has been no exception. Last night, we saw the New York Liberty defeat the Las Vegas Aces thanks to a great start, and the Minnesota Lynx defeated the Connecticut Sun 73-70. Evan, what did you think of the action last night? Yeah,
first we'll talk about, the Liberty and Aces game. An absolutely dominant game for New York Liberty. I mean, just blew the Aces out 87-77. And we also look at Breanna Stewart, absolutely on fire. I mean, she dropped 34 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, shot 12 for 19 from the field and 2 for 4 on her 3 points as well. I mean, she's also averaging over 20 points a game, which is insane in the WNBA. She's absolutely electric. She's also a veteran presence on this Liberty team, which, when it comes down to playoffs, no matter what the sport is, You want a veteran presence. But also, too, you look at Sabrina Ioski. I'm sorry if I butchered that, Sabrina, but she also dropped 21 points. It was also a huge factor for this Liberty offense as well. And you look at it, too, Liberty also just outshot the Aces in every aspect. 50% from the field, 42.1% from free throws, 82.6%, where penalty or fouls for the Aces were a huge problem for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big problem for them, but Brianna Stewart and Sabrina both showed out.
Mm-hmm.
They combined for 55 of the team's 87 points. I mean, that's why they're the second highest scoring team in the league. And they just show up, and they've done their thing in these playoffs. So far, they're 4-0.
I mean, looking good so far. And, you know, what impressed me in the Connecticut-Minnesota game was the defense on both sides. 73-70, 143 combined points. So both teams did a really good job of playing defense. Alyssa Thomas was a beast, 17 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. She was 1 assist away from that all-elusive triple-double. She's averaging 16 points, 11.7 assists so far in the postseason, and she averaged basically 10 points in the regular season. So she's up 6 points from where she was in the regular season in relation to the postseason. So she's absolutely showing out so far. And you got to give credit as well to the Lynx. They did a good job to hang in, but just wasn't enough to take out the Connecticut Sky. I think the Sky have a fast track maybe to the WNBA championship if things work out a certain way. I think they've definitely got some power right now, Evan.
Yeah, no, in that game against the Sun and the Lynx, very back and forth. I mean, 73-70, but I think what really killed the Lynx in this game is they got out-rebounded. I mean,
yeah.
The Sun were able to absolutely just clean the boards and absolutely just, you know, get all these defensive rebounds and not really allowed the Lynx to get any offensive rebounds at all. Turnovers was a huge factor for the Lynx as well. I believe they had about 11.
Too many.
Yeah, they had 11 where the Sun only had 9. So the Sun took care of the ball a lot more. And again, when you have your DeWanna Bonner, who dropped 13 points and also helped with a lot of those rebounds as well for the Sun, I think it's just going to be a tough matchup for the Lynx, but I think it's going to be a lot closer of a series compared when you look at Liberty and the Aces.
It's going to be very interesting to watch, guys. We'll have to see how all of it works in the WNBA, but the sun may very well be rising over the Connecticut Sky. When we come back, we've got the Atlanta Braves fighting for their playoff lives and Nashville SC being overthrown by the Revolution. We'll be right back on Sportsballin'.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Oh, man. I can't believe I'm missing this. Okay, Grandma. I see you.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. It keeps you, your community, and loved ones protected. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
It's something about having that piece of paper. Some people think that's worth more than my skills.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
You just gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
Analytics and empathy. That's how I've gained clients.
I am more.
I'm more
than who I am on paper.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because it felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Welcome back. We've got some breaking news here in Studio 1. Drum roll, please. the Atlanta Braves are going to the MLB playoffs. They clinched their spot thanks to a win in the second half of their doubleheader versus the New York Mets. Now they will meet the San Diego Padres tomorrow night for Game 1 of the NLWC. Connor, I'll start with you. How are you feeling after the Braves' victory?
You know, the Braves, just for them to make the playoffs, we talked about this before the show, for them to make the playoffs was just a miracle in itself. Here's a list of some guys, just some notable names that missed the season. Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Spencer Strider, Sean Murphy, Michael Harris all missed at least 52 games this year. So the fact that they even won 89 games and made the postseason, miracle in itself. But they've got a tall task against the Padres, really powerful offense, good pitching staff. And don't forget, they play a doubleheader today. Got to get on the plane, go to San Diego tonight, play tomorrow night at 7:30.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be rough. That's the biggest thing about the postseason with the MLB is that travel that you do, like Connor just mentioned. You know, they just played doubleheader against the Mets, which, good job on the Mets. They took that first game away from of the doubleheader, winning 8-7 in that first game with a Francisco Lindor 2-run shot in the ninth inning to give the Mets the lead. Unfortunate to see for the Mets. I mean, the pitching for the Braves just absolutely came out swinging in that game too. I think the Mets only had about 4 or 5 hits on the game and left a bunch of runners on base, which that didn't help the Mets at all either. And the pitching looked really good for the Braves, even though Chris Sale, who was supposed to make the start, was scratched due to some back spasms or something like that. But as a Red Sox fan, now surprised because Chris Sale will be an ace the entire season.
Ouch!
And as soon as the postseason comes, he's like, "Oh, this hurts. Oh, my back." He's just not reliable inside the postseason.
I mean, throw in some shade out.
Well,
Chris Sale.
I gotta throw some shade at Chris
Okay,
Sale. I'm sorry, Chris.
What we'll say is, hey, you know what? The heavens, they smiled on Atlanta for once after that rough weekend with the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll not even get into that, but let's move on, guys. Nashville SC took a trip to New England this past week and ran into some problems against the Revolution.
Big time.
New England won the possession battle 57% to 43% and scored the lone goal of this match courtesy of Brandon Bye. SC now stands at 8-9-14 on the season and need a miracle to make it into the postseason. The question to ask, Evan, what has gone wrong here in 2024?
Everything. No,
Everything.
It's just Nashville SC just looked flat in this game. I mean, that's kind of been the theme the entire season. I mean, Henny Mukhtar hasn't looked pretty good. Zimmerman hasn't looked good. I mean, between the net also too, hasn't been too solid for SC. I mean, there is a slight glimmer of hope to still make the playoffs for Nashville SC. But they have to play DC United, like you mentioned.
Yep.
They have to play New York FC, which I believe they're sitting third inside the conference at the moment. And then you also play Chicago Fire, who are at the bottom, but still Chicago Fire can give a run to the money for Nashville. And I do want to touch back on the single goal scorer in, Brandon Dye, who is their right back, and that just comes down to all the crosses and also all the corners that Nashville SC gave up. Gave up 8 where they only had 1. And when that happens, and especially with how good Brandon Bye is in set pieces, which a lot of times your back 4 are,
right.
That's what's going to happen. A beautiful header there from Brandon Bye, and also a beautiful cross also from Luca Lioni as well, who absolutely amazing cross by him.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed by the game. I mean, it was a great defensive battle, obviously, but New England came out on top 1-0. I mean, they scored their only shot on goal. Nashville had 4 chances, couldn't get it in. And something to look at, a paper-popping stat.
Josh Pate reference.
Yeah. The New England Revolution, first win in a month.
Yeah.
Their last one was 8-24, 5-0 against Montreal.
Not good.
So.
And also snapped, I believe Nashville also too was on a 3-game streak where they didn't win a game. I think they were 2-0-1 coming into this game.
And it ended up hurting them in the end. Guys, SC needs to be like a third-grade student in arts and crafts and go back to the drawing board. But when we come back, get amped up because it's time for our season opening Hot Takes of the Week. So don't go anywhere right here on Sportsballin.
There are a lot of words I would use to describe my daughter. Kind, strong, hilarious. When I think about how much she's experienced in her life, we can't help but be inspired by her every day. So really, we're the lucky ones. Learn more at adoptuskids.org.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Okay. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, Drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Welcome back. It's time to turn up the heat with our hot takes of the week. Let's get right down to it. Evan, what do you have for us?
Rev up them fryers. So my hot take here for this first episode here, boys, is Tyler Reddick. We're already talking about NASCAR. Tyler Reddick will not make it to the round of 8.
Wrong.
Regular season champion, you think he would do pretty well, but I mean, Tyler Reddick just hasn't looked too well. Sure, at Kansas, he was running the top 15 majority of the race. Did finish that race, I believe, 24th, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, 25th.
Yes.
But you also look at Watkins Glen and also Bristol, 27th at Watkins Glen and 20th at Bristol. The Watkins Glen one is a little surprising because Tyler Reddick is a little bit more of a road racer. Every single other road circuit, such as Circuit of the Americas and the other road course they went to, he finished in the top 5 in Chicago. He finished in the top 5 both of those races. So it was a little surprising to see him fall off that hard at Watkins Glen. And I think, too, his momentum is just shot. I mean, he's had a really fast car. That Toyota has looked really good from 2311. And, compared to his teammate Bubba Wallace, no hate to Bubba Wallace, love that man. But Tyler Reddick looks really, really strong behind that 45 machine. And I just don't think his confidence isn't there. The pace is kind of on and off. You look at his past couple races as well. It's just the consistency is not there. He's just all over the board. And when it comes down to the playoffs, you need to be consistent. I mean, sure, he has 19 top 10s on the season, has 2 wins to go along with it. But again, that doesn't mean anything in the playoffs when you can't be consistent. And consistency is key. And if you can't do that.
And I'll keep my response short, but he's got 2 wins, 19 top 10s, the most of anybody in the Cup Series, 11 top 5s, and a lot of these tracks coming up favor him. He's had speed at the short tracks, he's won at road courses, and he did win the Talladega Spring Race despite how chaotic it is. It still counts for something.
Half the field died coming to the checkered flag on that one. And again, it's Talladega.
It is Talladega. You got to do what you got to do with it. But moving on, Connor, what's your hot take?
My hot take is that Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty not only wins the Heisman, but he breaks Barry Sanders' record for most touchdowns and yards in a single season in college football history. Right now, Barry holds the record, 37 touchdowns, over 2,600 yards. But right now, Ashton Jeanty, 845 yards, 13 touchdowns in 4 games. He's on pace. If they go to a bowl game, they're going to.
Yes.
Over 2,700 yards and 42 touchdowns.
I mean, I like your moxie, Connor. I really do. But allow me to tell you why you're wrong. So he is a phenomenal college football player. Generational G5 running back, we might say, right? But he's not going to win the Heisman.
Why is that?
First of all, the last running back to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry in 2015, which, by the way, he was really great. But just because you break Barry Sanders' records does not mean you're going to win the Heisman, because there's another running back who broke a Barry Sanders record that did not win the Heisman, Christian McCaffrey, who was robbed of the Heisman Trophy. I don't care what you say, he was robbed of that trophy. And I know you're an Alabama fan, but you've got to admit that should have went to Christian McCaffrey. And here's the thing, he's a G5 player. We know that the voters don't look at G5 the same way as they do a Power 4 name brand program like Miami or Alabama. So honestly, I think Jalen Milroe or Cam Ward has to have a better overall chance, even Travis Hunter, than Jeanty.
See, go ahead.
And the thing, like you mentioned, Travis Hunter. That's honestly my front runner for the Heisman right now. You look at Travis Hunter. No other guy in college football is playing both sides of the ball. He's taking over about 120 snaps a game, which is ridiculous. Nobody does that. And also, you go look, he has 46 catches already, 561 yards. You want to see that number up a little bit, but that number will go up as the season goes on. He also has 6 touchdowns and averages 12.2 yards per catch. Also has 2 picks on the season for him already, and that number is also going to increase as he gets more reps at the cornerback position. I just think Travis Hunter, you look at him, he's a pure athlete. He's really good at both sides of the ball, and nobody is doing what he's doing in college football and doing it at an elite level like Travis Hunter is doing it.
You know, I have rebuttals for both of you guys.
Okay.
One, starting with you about Travis Hunter, great player. We all know the Heisman is a record award. Whoever has the better record is going to win the Heisman.
That is true.
They're not going to win with a 4-8 record, 5-7 record. And to go along with you, Derrick Henry won the Heisman.
That's a hot take in and of itself. 4-8. Whoa.
That's not a hot take. Anyways.
Already 4-1.
Anyways. Derrick Henry won the Heisman that year. Had about 2,100 yards. If Ashton Genty finishes with over 2,700, sets the record, I don't care what you say. Right now, they are 21st in the country. There are only 2 games that are somewhat difficult, UNLV and Oregon State. The rest are G5s. If they go out in there and they are 11-1, 10-2, make the playoffs, and he has those kind of stats, you cannot ignore that. He is the best player.
And I agree, but we'll talk more about it later. Anyway, guys, time for my hot take. Georgia, the Bulldogs, yes, you heard me, will miss out on the 2025 college football playoff. And yes, I'm talking about the 12-team playoff. I didn't get confused and think it was last year, because here's the thing. Georgia Tech, call the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because they looked absolutely shell-shocked against Alabama in that first half, down 28-0. What in the world happened to Carson Beck? I mean, he just looked completely outmatched out there. What do you have, 5 turnovers? You cannot, it wasn't just 4 turnovers, whatever it was way too many. You cannot turn the ball over that much and expect to beat top-flight SEC opponents, and there are 3 games I'm circling that they could very well lose. They got to go on the road to Texas. Not going to be easy. They got to host Tennessee, who's looking really good right now, and even Ole Miss on the Grove. It's going to be a hard game. Georgia is looking very, very troublesome right now, and their stock, it's decreased more than EA's after the Star Wars Battlefront scandal, okay? They're in a lot of trouble right now, so Georgia is not making the college football playoff.
I love that analogy with the
I thought you might like that one.
But you kind of look at Georgia, though. Again, it's a 12 playoff format. I mean, there's no way Georgia misses it. Sure, they are playing some tough opponents. They are playing Tennessee. They play Ole Miss, and they're also and they lost this game against Alabama, which I'll give it to Connor as a Bama fan.
Yes.
Alabama looked really good in that game.
They did.
Is it the Alabama of old with Nick Saban? Not really, but they do look really strong to compete against Georgia. But I just think with the expansion of the playoffs, there's no way Georgia falls out of the top 12. I mean, sure, they're playing Tennessee, Ole Miss, and all those other teams, but I think they beat Ole Miss. They have a good shot against Tennessee because they are playing in Athens, and Athens is kind of like Rocky Top. It's a hard place to play.
We always, not always, but we remember the last time they played in Athens, both teams were top 3 in the country.
Tennessee was number 1.
Georgia smoked them.
Yeah, and
Georgia smoked them.
And I think the only real challenge for Georgia is Texas. Because, I mean, Texas at the moment, they're the number 1 team in the nation. They're the top of the SEC. They're probably going to, I'm going to say right now, they're probably going to win the SEC title as well.
I agree.
And Texas is just that team. I mean, you got Peyton Manning 2.0 essentially. He's just a little more mobile than Arch Manning.
Man.
I mean, it's going to be hard to beat Texas no matter
all over
what
the
team
place.
you are in the SEC.
I know.
Hey, I believe in Arch Manning. The boys are
I can tell.
Quinn Ewers is going to come back in a week.
Yeah, move aside. Get Quinn Ewers out of there. But just keep Arch in.
Give this man an Arch Manning.
That boy's
point.
ready. Hey, he's been sticking out behind.
Don't hate the mullet. Don't hate the mullet.
I mean, that's like an iconic look for Quinn Ewers at this point.
Sure
and
it is.
Texas is going to be a tough team to beat no matter what you have to say. And SEC, it's just really stacked this year. Georgia's got a lot left on their plate. It's going to be a tough one no matter which way you look at it, guys. But you know what? Sorry, Georgia. There's always the Pop-Tarts Bowl. When we come back, we'll have our picks of the week, so don't go anywhere right here on Sportsballin'.
The stars come to Middle Tennessee State University. And students come here to become stars, no matter what they pursue. We're the only college of media and entertainment in the world, just outside the heart of Nashville.
Mic check, 1, 2, everybody listen. When you do it like this, ain't no competition. I'm talking B.I.G., VIP. Treat them like a front row seat and make them pay attention. If I shoot for the 3, then I ain't never missing. Cranking up the degrees like I was in the kitchen. Can't lose, got too much to prove. And when you do it all, it get too hard to do it.
Our curriculum and facilities are cutting edge, and our relationships with industry leaders give students an edge over the competition. Check it out! You can get real-world experience with degrees in recording industry, media arts, journalism and strategic media, and more. Media and entertainment at Middle Tennessee State University. Learn to shine.
Thousands of families affected by disasters, like the recent hurricane, urgently need support. You can help the American Red Cross provide warm meals, shelter, and hope to families when they need it most. Please donate today to Red Cross Disaster Relief to help people affected by disasters, big and small. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS today. Your support is critical. We can't do it without you.
A smile. It can show how we feel. It can change the course of our lives. But what would life be like if you weren't able to smile? It doesn't have to be this way. Since 1999, Smile Train has been helping children experience the simple joy of a smile. To learn more, call or go online now.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Letting my friends online know I was quitting kept me on track.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
I kept on trying, learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
We did it. You can too.
For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Welcome back to Sports Ballin'. It's now time for our picks of the week. We will start with Nashville SC versus DC United Wednesday at 7:30. Evan, who do you have?
DC United, no question.
Any further explanation?
Nashville SC just hasn't looked very strong in these past couple matches. Sure, they're coming off, they won 2 games, but I just don't think SC has it. I mean, DC United has a really solid attacking front. I just don't think, based off the Revolution game, I just don't think Nashville has it. And plus, DC is playing for a playoff spot, and I think that's going to play a huge factor, and they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they've got a shot to submit themselves back into the playoff picture.
Right.
Both teams struggling, but I think that motivation to get back into the playoff spot, Nashville SC, come off a tough loss, I think DC United gets it done.
Yeah, you talked about motivation. I think that's the key deciding factor here. DC United has it. Nashville SC probably doesn't have it as much. Give me DC United. And finally, guys, Titans versus Colts Sunday at noon on October 13th. Evan, you first.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. I mean, big rivalry game for both these teams inside their divisions. Excuse me. And it's really hard to pick, but I think I'm going to go with the Colts. Will Levis just hasn't looked very strong. This whole Titans team, for the most part, hasn't really come off the gates hot like they did last season. And I think for the Colts, even though I think Anthony Richardson's probably going to miss this game still with a hip injury,
right?
You have elite quarterback Joe Flacco waiting in the wings. And
oh, yeah.
I said it. He's elite. So I'm going to go with the Colts here on this one, guys.
Yeah, both quarterbacks obviously not very good. I think the deciding factor in this game is Jonathan Taylor. Is he healthy or not? High ankle sprain. He missed this week, but he's got a week or two to rest up, try and get back to that level of play back on the field. Either way, Tennessee's kryptonite has been the Colts.
Right.
So I think I got to go with the Colts until Tennessee proves otherwise. They can beat them.
Old man strength from Joe Flacco makes the difference in this one. He's going to be flexing on him. Colts get the win in this one by a score of 20-17 is my final prediction.
I like that.
But guys, don't yell like Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen, but today's episode has got to come to an end. But remember that you can catch new episodes of Sports Ballin' here on Blue Raider Television each week. For Evan Snyder and Connor Smith, I am Dylan Simmons saying so long, and remember to always have an electric night.